It's precisely 1:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Danushka Madhavela, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. 1,700 teachers will be recruited to the national school at the beginning of the next school term. Diana and 2 SJB MPs suspended from Parliament for a month. The government has focused its attention to remove salary anomalies of pensioners. WHO pledges financial technical support to Sri Lanka. Special commodity levy imposed on certain goods. The Natural Hazards Early Warning Centre today issued an advisory for rough sea and strong winds. And in world news, Putin orders Russian military to boost troop numbers by 170,000. And in sports, late tune winner caps incredible England comeback. Now the local news in detail. Minister Susil Priyanjantha says that 1,700 teachers will be recruited to the national school at the beginning of the next school term. The next year's school term will be commenced on the 19th of February next year. Addressing the Parliament today, the Minister said that these teachers will be appointed in the schools where technological subjects are available to teach physics, chemistry, biology, combined maths and foreign languages subjects. Deadline for apply for the teacher vacancies ended yesterday. Replying to a question raised by MP Rohini Kumari Wijeratna, the Minister said that after appointing the new teachers, existing transfer requests can be considered to implement. The Parliamentary Committee on Ethics and Privileges yesterday recommended the suspension of State Minister Diana Gamage and SJB MPs Sujit Sanjay Pereira and Rohana Bandara from Parliament for a month for tarnishing the dignity of Parliament by being involved in a brawl in the Parliament premises. Accordingly, the report of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, which includes the recommendation to suspend the State Minister and the 2 SJB MPs from Parliament for a month, was presented to Parliament yesterday by its chairman, former Speaker MP Chamal Rajapaksa. This proposal is to be adopted by majority vote in Parliament on a future date. The fight took place on October 20th after an argument that occurred near the Parliament Library. State Minister Ranjit Simbalapitiya says that the government has focused its attention to remove salary anomalies of the pensioners. The President has instructed officials to pay the increased 2,500 rupees from the budget from next month. The State Minister said that pensioners are a group of people that has served the nation. He was speaking at a ceremony to commence construction works of the welfare building near Daraniyagala town yesterday. A special meeting between Health Secretary Dr. Palitha Mahipala and Permanent Representative of the World Health Organization, Dr. Alaka Singh, took place yesterday at the Health Ministry. At the meeting, Dr. Singh agreed to provide financial and technical support from the WHO for the improvement of certain areas of the health service in Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the WHO will provide technical assistance for the implementation of dengue control projects, support to prevent resistance caused by antibiotics, data analysis needed to prepare health policies for the next 10 years, and also provide training for the National Medicines Regulatory Authority staff. It was also agreed to provide the support of scholars from the WHO's Southeast Asia Regional Office and the Geneva Head Office for the above activities, and Dr. Singh made a special evaluation about the progress of the primary health care in Sri Lanka. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing local news, special commodity levy has been imposed on a number of goods. The revised regulation will be applicable from December 1, 2023 to December 31, 2024 in accordance with the provisions of subsection 3 of the second paragraph under the Special Merchandise Tax Act No. 48 of 2007. Accordingly, this tax will be imposed on items including yogurt, butter, dates, fresh and dried grapes, fish, big onions. The Natural Hazards Early Warning Center today issued an advisory for rough sea and strong winds. According to the advisory, the depression over southwest Bay of Bengal is located near latitude 10.3 north and longitude of 85.3 east at 11:30 p.m. yesterday and about 490 kilometers northeast of Trincomalee. It will develop into a deep depression during next 12 hours and further into a cyclonic storm by tomorrow. The system is expected to move west-northwestward near north coast of Sri Lanka towards North Tamil Nadu coast of India by Tuesday. Naval and fishing communities are requested to be vigilant in this regard. A new skills test in the field of construction was introduced in Sri Lanka yesterday for working in Japan as specified skilled workers. Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanayakkara, announcing the initiative, said talented Sri Lankans will now have the opportunity to work in Japan and master skills in the construction sector that will contribute not only to Japan's construction sector but also to the future development of Sri Lanka. Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideki, Chief Representative of Japan International Cooperation Agency Sri Lanka Office, Amada Tetusuya, and the Chairman of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment, AAM Hilmi, joined the Minister to announce the launch of the initiative to the media at the SLBC office in Battaramulla. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaraweera said in Parliament yesterday that the Cabinet has approved the import of 100,000 metric tons of Kiri Samba rice for the upcoming festive season. The minister also stated that the government decided to import 50,000 metric tons of rice under the first phase and sell it only under the intervention of the state. He said this while replying to the question asked by Member of Parliament Rohana Bandara, expecting oral answers. Minister Amaraweera said that Kiri Samba was cultivated in about 7% of the paddy cultivated lands in the last season and a harvest of 5,000 metric tons was obtained. He said that some paddy mill owners have kept stocks of rice, and with the import of rice stocks, they will be able to control the rise in rice prices. That came to you in main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
Moving on to Watchlight. Due to an essential maintenance activity, vehicular movement at the Nugegoda railway crossing will be limited from 8 a.m. today till 6 a.m. tomorrow. The police stated that during the relevant period, the part of the railway crossing at Stanley Tilakaratna Mawathe Nugegoda along the Kalani Valley railway line will be closed and urged the motorists to use alternative routes. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to world news. Taking a look at the headlines of the world news, Putin orders Russian military to boost troop numbers by 170,000. George Santos expelled from Congress in historic vote. Protesters set themselves on fire outside Israel consulate in Atlanta, Georgia. Now the world news in detail. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered the country's military to increase the number of troops by nearly 170,000 to a total of 1.32 million as Moscow's invasion of Ukraine continues into its 22nd month. Putin's decree was released by the Kremlin yesterday and took force immediately. It brings the overall number of Russian military personnel to about 2.2 million, including 1.32 million troops. It is the second such expansion of the army since 2018. The previous boost by 137,000 troops ordered by Putin in August 2022 put the military's numbers at about 2 million personnel and about 1.15 million troops. The Defense Ministry said the order doesn't imply any significant expansion of conscription, saying in a statement that the increase would happen gradually by recruiting more volunteers. The ministry cited what it called a special military operation in Ukraine and the expansion of NATO as the reasons for the increase. The U.S. House of Representatives has expelled Congressman George Santos following a damning ethics report and dozens of criminal charges. The New York Republican is only the sixth lawmaker in history to be removed from the lower chamber of Congress and the first since 2002. His tenure was marked by multiple lies about his past and allegations of fraud, all revealed after his election. Friday's was the third attempt to oust Mr. Santos after two previous votes failed. The 35-year-old from Queens made a quick exit from the Capitol before the vote ended, as its outcome became clear, rushing past a swarm of reporters and into a waiting SUV. A protester is in a critical condition after lighting themselves on fire at the Israeli consulate in the U.S. state of Georgia in what the police called an extreme act of political protest. Police said the demonstrator used petrol and a Palestinian flag was found at the scene outside the mission in Atlanta. The person's gender and age remain unclear. A security guard who attempted to intervene was also injured. The guard suffered burns to the wrist and leg, Atlanta Fire Chief Roderick Smith told reporters. That ends World News. Prior to concluding World News, the headlines of the World News once again. Putin orders Russian military to boost troop numbers by 170,000. George Santos expelled from Congress in historic vote. Protesters set themselves on fire outside Israel consulate in Atlanta, Georgia. That ends World News. Moving on to development news. Number of tourist arrivals has surpassed the mark of 144,000 during the month of November this year. Tourist arrivals from November 1st to 27th, 2023 were 137,703, and the last 3 days of the month fetched around 6,500 to pass the July arrival figures. The total arrivals from January to November 27th, 2023 were 1,263,158. The total number of tourists that visited Sri Lanka in 2022 was 719,978. Top 3 sourcing destinations for Sri Lanka for November 2023 was India with 27,281, accounting to 20%, followed by Russian Federation, 22,382, and in third place was Germany with 11,680 arrivals. That was development news. Moving on to sports news. Ella Toone scored a late winner for England as they came from 2 goals down to beat the Netherlands in a critical Women's Nations League tie, keeping alive Team Great Britain's hopes of qualifying for the Olympic Games. The World Cup runners-up were 2-0 down after 35 minutes when Lynette Beresteyn punished defence errors and took advantage of a passive midfield to score twice for the Netherlands. Ronnie O'Sullivan branded himself awful despite keeping alive his hopes of a record-extending 8th UK Snooker Championship crown. The world number 1 beat China's Zhou Yulong 6-5 in a gripping quarter-final in York. O'Sullivan led 4-1 but slipped 5-4 down before winning the final 2 frames for a fine comeback win. That was Sports News.
Go ekakiyana youth කට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න. The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Dialog Axiata PLC has enabled over 200,000 Sri Lankans to experience the power of 5G on Dialog's 5G trial network. Customers connecting to Dialog's 5G trial network can get the opportunity to experience the extraordinary potential of 5G technology, along with download and upload speeds of up to 1 Gbps. Further, dialogue roaming customers can take advantage of 5G roaming services, with over 100 operators in more than 50 destinations now offering seamless 5G connectivity, including the latest edition, India. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news.
The BBC World Service reports that they have learned the country hosting COP28 climate talks aimed at cutting fossil fuel emissions is massively ramping up its own oil production. The United Arab Emirates state oil firm ADNOC may drill 42% more by 2030, according to analysts considered the international gold standard in oil market intelligence. Between 2023 and 2050, only Saudi Arabia is expected to produce more. ADNOC says projections show capacity to produce oil, not actual production. It said it had already clearly stated plans to boost its production capacity by 7% over the next 4 years. The firm said it was widely accepted that some oil and gas would be needed in decades ahead, and that it was making its activities more climate-friendly, including by expanding into renewable energy. That came to you in economic news. Moving on to the weather report. Cloudy skies can be expected over most parts of the island. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in northern, north-central, eastern and Uva provinces. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in northern, north-central and eastern provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in other provinces of the island. Strong winds about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the northern, north-central, northwestern and southern provinces and in Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. 1,700 teachers will be recruited to the national school at the beginning of the next school term. Diana and 2 SJB MPs suspended from Parliament for a month. The government has focused its attention to remove salary anomalies of the pensioners. WHO pledges financial, technical support to Sri Lanka. Special commodity levy imposed on certain goods. The Natural Hazards Early Warning Centre today issued an advisory for rough sea and strong winds. With that, we conclude the news, and over to my friend and certainly yours, who's all geared up to keep you entertained with a wonderful collection of music. Over to you, Asanka.